Dragon Ballers, if you're looking to buy Dragon Ball Super or One Piece sealed product, make sure to get 5% off using my link to Mystic TCG down in the description. You can also sell cards to them using their Facebook link, which is also down in the description. Yo, what's going on, One Piecers? Welcome back to another meta breakdown video. In today's video, we're going over the data for two different treasure cups. The first one we'll talk about is the one that took place in Germany over the weekend, and the second one will be covering the data that we have currently for the Vegas Level Up Expo. We'll get into that in today's video. If you guys are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys do want to help support the channel in a totally free way, if you're going to buy any trading cards at all, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really does help me out quite a bit. I really do appreciate it. Anyways, let's jump right on in. First and foremost, all the data I'm going over today is as a result of Orange Samurai D. So I'm going to link his Facebook down in the description. Big shout out to him for just compiling all this data. Really appreciate it. It makes my life easier. So we're going over the Germany Treasure Cup first. Now, I'm not sure how many players they had, to be honest. I'm not sure if other regions outside the US are hitting these 500 player caps. I would hope and kind of assume they are as well, because One Piece just seems to be insanely popular. But yeah, again, not totally sure on the absolute player count, but this top 16 is kind of crazy. We have 10 green kid in this top 16, taking up well over 50% of this top 16. So this really starts from what we saw last week with Andrew Duvall going absolutely undefeated all the way through Swiss into Top Cut and just winning the event outright, not taking a single loss. And that might have been a big inspiration as to why a lot of people are playing Kid this week. And it seems to be a very similar thing going into the Vegas event as well. Minor spoilers. But yeah, 10 Kid here. This might be a thing where Kid is sort of being discovered as the best deck. I mean, I don't know if people were really saying that when the Japan meta was the only thing we had to go off of. I wasn't really paying attention to the meta at that point. But it seems like as the weeks have gone on, Kid has just been doing better and better and better, and eventually just winning and cleaning up pretty much all the events. I don't know if this is 100% true, but this is kind of just my analytical brain at work. I'm not sure how many players the Japanese tournaments were getting in set one. I'm sure it was a high amount. I don't know if they had 500 player cap tournaments or not, but you know, it's the meta over there seemed to be a lot more even with, to be fair, a lot of Zoro and a lot of Kid doing very well, but you still saw a fair amount of Kaido, a lot of Law, maybe a little bit less Dofi. But now it seems like since the rest of the world has the game and is able to, you know, play the game and test and figure out what's most competitive, it seems like we are actually centralizing in on a more defined meta, if that makes sense. And that does make sense because we have much more of a sample size, like, you know, just Japan playing the game versus the rest of the world. You know, that's gonna really increase the sample size and narrow down the data and make it a bit more true, I guess you could say, as to what's the better and what are the worst decks. So yeah, Kid just seems absolutely insane, but people could have just picked up Kid because of how well it did last weekend. That's also a totally valid thing. 2 purple Kaido, which is, you know, not super unexpected. Sometimes Kaido misses Top Cut, sometimes it doesn't. No Dofi here. I kind of look at Dofi as Kaido's like partner in crime, in the sense of like sometimes they top, sometimes they don't, and it's not really guaranteed. As we're at this point, we're pretty much used to seeing Luffy and Law topping most events. I don't think these decks have really missed too many top cuts. But what's really interesting though is that, again, coming from that Japanese meta, we never really saw too much Luffy. Luffy is much more of a, I guess you could say, Western evolution of the game, where you know, Zoro was doing incredibly well in Japan, and Zoro has missed its second top cut in back-to-back weeks here in Germany. That's a pretty insane feat, to be honest. Like, I think that deck had a lot of hype coming out of set one before people really start to play with the set. But Luffy is just a little bit more of that like mid-range boss monster style of deck that really seems to be taking over for the color red. But this might also just be due to the fact that it won so convincingly, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. That might just be why Kid and Luffy are on such a hype train right now. But regardless, it's still super interesting to see the difference between the original meta for the game and what the rest of the world has done with it. So we're going to take a look at the top 16 deck list for this Germany event, and then we'll go over a little bit of the Vegas event. All right, once again, big shout out to Orange Samurai D. The link to his Facebook page will be down in the description. Now, would you believe if I told you that all top 4 of this event for Germany was Kid? So we'll go through the top 4 lists rather quickly, and we'll try to look at some main differences here. Going to the first place list, shout out to Mateo, big congratulations. We have 4 Bonnie and 3 Momo, which I think is becoming a bit more standard. Momo is prone to missing, I wouldn't say more often than not, but a fair amount of the time it's gonna miss. And The usage of Momo is also kind of weird. Like when I play Kid, I just want to hit Okiku's for my turn 2, so ideally I'll see Momo turn 1 going second, or I just want to really see Izo's for the 2k counter, and then like once in a while you'll see like a Paradise Waterfall if you're choosing to play that card. But yeah, otherwise you just want Bonnie to hit all your bosses, your 7-drop kids, your 8-drop kids, your laws, that kind of stuff. Going through here, we do have the 4 killers, the 4 cat vipers, and the rest of it's still looking pretty standard. We have the 1 X Drake with, it looks like 0 copies of 3 cost killer, so we're not getting the killer value with the 5-drop law. But to be fair, this might not have been a super red heavy meta. This region of the world might just not be very red heavy in terms of like red aggro, so if you don't need a 3-drop killer, you just don't need it. Then we do have the 2 copies of the 7-drop kid, which we saw Andrew use in his list last week, going all the way to first place, just like this list did. I'm really starting to like 2 7-drop kids. I played it a couple weeks ago on stream. The card is not so great against blue, but it's pretty solid against everything else. But a lot of times you want to play law to, you know, facilitate some of your combos with Okiku, with Raizo, with Cat Viper, reusing Cat Viper, stuff like that. So I definitely just like 7-drop kid at 2. I think it makes a lot of sense. Then we have 3 8-drops, and our extra card lineup, our event card lineup, is very interesting here. 3 Paradise Waterfall paired with 1 Punk Gibson for our defensive events, and then the 1 Straw Sword. If you guys saw my video last week, I was just talking about how, you know, if you're a kid player who's maining the 1 Straw Sword, you are a much ballsier man than I am, and this card is seriously good in like the Kaido matchup, any matchup that's just presenting big and annoying blockers, or even cards that you want to just swing over with Basil. You can just Straw Sword them. Like maybe your opponent plays a Ben Beckman, and then the following turn you had the Basil from the previous turn. The following turn you play Straw Sword, swing into the Ben Beckman, get it off the board. That's an option too. The card offers a lot of play lines, but it can definitely brick. So, you know, kudos to this player for making it work for sure. Let's go on to see the second place. Look for some quick changes. So we have the full 4 Momo. We have the 2 3-drop killer paired with a 3 law. Last list was playing 4 law. Again, 2 7-drops, 3 8-drops, and a more even split of events. We do have the 2 Paris Waterfall, 2 Punk Gibson, and the 2 Straw Sword. Even 1 more Straw Sword. This guy is a real man's man right here. Maximilian. That's awesome, dude. But yeah, again, kid, just seeming insane. I'm noticing a similarity though of 2 Basils between both lists. I just think Basil is absolutely cracked in the mirror, and at this point, I think you're expecting to play a lot of mirrors. So for me, I think 3 Basil's the way to go. But yeah, it still worked out for these players like this. All right, then we have the 3rd place list. We have Giovanni. We have, again, the 3 Momo. We have pretty standard stuff going through here with a 2 3-drop killers again. And we have the 3 Basil Hawkins. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Another list to play 2 7-drops. This might just be the staple going forward for this card. We only have 2 Paradise Waterfall here and 1 Straw Sword. Okay, Germany's a big fan of Straw Sword. I'm liking that a lot. And then the event cards, again, it's all about preference. Paradise Waterfall versus Punk Gibson. It's your willingness to change your play style. Do you want to leave 2 down open for the interruptive factor of Punk Gibson, or do you want to simply just kind of protect your board with the Paradise Waterfall? That's kind of your choice there. Then we have the 4th place list. Going through here, we have the switch back to 4 Momo. Now for our 5-drops, it's a lot more even split. So we have 2 Basil, 2 X Drake, and 2 Law. And then we have 2 7-drops once again. So this is pretty much seeming like the gold standard. And then the similar event lineup of the 2 Paradise Waterfall and the 2 Straw Sword. Man, I might have to start just sucking it up and playing Straw Sword, man. This card is pretty cracked. All right, going on to the 5th place list, we have Purple Kaido. So let's take a quick look at what we're doing here. We have pretty standard stuff with the maximum amount of blockers. We have our 2K lineup. We have 12 2Ks from the looks of things. We are playing a moderately ramp heavy build, I would say. We're playing 4 Nigashima and we're playing 4 Jack, but we're not playing other rampers like any of the event cards. And we are playing 2 9-drops, 3 10-drops, and we're actually playing 4 Babanuki and 2 Urashima. So we're leaning heavy into the vanilla cards here, which for Kaido, you get to them faster because, again, you're ramping, and they're just overstated beasts. So, yeah, these cards are very solid. We have our 4 6-drop Kings, which is the best turn 3 in the deck for the most part. Like, popping Okikus, popping Rush Zoros is very good. Now, a lot of lists you see don't play 9-drop Kaido, and I think those are more the lists that just want to rush to 10 and play the board wipe as soon as possible. I really think 9-drop Kaido is just the most cracked card in the deck. Like, the fact that it just almost does the same thing as 10-drop Kaido for less of a Dawn minus. Like, you're going to pop 1 card, just about any card your opponent has, unless it costs higher than 6. And then you're swinging into another card because it has Rush. So you're getting rid of pretty much any relevant threat they have on the board, or both relevant threats they have on the board. So, yeah, I think 9-drop Kaido is pretty insane. Then we go to a kid list. We'll just skip over this one for now. We'll go to the highest placing Luffy list. We have our standard lineup of 1 costs. We have 2 Usopp. This is the one I believe that punishes your opponent for activating events, so solid against kids sometimes if they're using the Paradise Waterfalls, the Straw Swords and everything. This is also good against Kaido for the Blast Breath and everything like that, so not bad at all. We have 4 Robin, 4 Zoro, 4 Rush Luffy, 3 Men Beckman, and 2 Shanks. Now I think a lot of these lists go back and forth on how many Shanks to play, and really I think it's all about just how many cards in your deck you want to play without counter power, because honestly this deck has quite a few. Like, we're actually playing what, 4, 8, 10, 14 2Ks in this deck, so that's pretty good. But we have a lot of cards that can't be used as counter, a lot of which specifically unless you have Dawn. So like, for example, we have 2 Guard Point, 2 Red Hawk that require Dawn. The rest we have, you know, our other event cards like Diablo Jambe, Jet Pistol, Round Table. 2 of Round Table is also a very interesting tech. It's great for removing just about anything in the game that's in rest mode, because you can mine it, you can pay 4, bring it down to 10k, you know, that might be 0 power or below 0 power probably, and then just swing into it with anything, like swinging into a Nami at a card that you've dropped to 0 or less power is pretty hilarious, but also incredibly effective, because otherwise Nami's kind of sitting there and not really doing too much. So yeah, that makes quite a bit of sense. And then we'll rush through here. So we have another list. We have the highest placing red green law. So our pre-standard 1-drop lineup, we are not playing Momonosuke in this build, so that's always a difference between different law decks, whether or not they're actually playing Momonosuke as more 1-drops, Wano searchers. But we're not playing too heavy of a Wano package in this particular build. We are, however, playing 2 copies of the 4/6 Luffy Vanilla out of the One Piece film promo pack. The stats on this guy are just pretty solid. He is able to be played off the lead here for 2, so a 2/6 is definitely not bad. But then, you know, the 5-drop law ends up being pretty much the same thing stats wise, but it all depends on what your board looks like, because you have to bounce back an opposite color to play a specific color. So sometimes you might want to bounce back a green to play a red in the case of the vanilla Luffy, right? And then we actually play 3 copies of the Restanding Law. This is a card that some law lists, at least in the US, don't play at all, or they play like 1 copy of as like a spicy tech. This list is leaning into this pretty heavily, so restanding those Monkey D. Luffys that can't be blocked, restanding those Zoros, restanding any threat you just loaded a ton of Dawn onto. Definitely super interesting. All right guys, now we're talking about the Vegas Treasure Cup, the top 4. So this is the data I was able to get. Once again, shout out to Orange Samurai ID. This is still good enough. We're going over the Treasure Cup here. Pretty sure it hit the 500 player cap, if not very close to it. We have 2 green Kid, 1 red Luffy, and 1 purple Kaido. Very similar as far as like percentages go from what we saw to the Germany event, as far as like Luffy and Kaido both converting them top cut and Kid taking up a good majority. Now I heard from secondhand that this Kid player won all the way through Swiss and all the way through top cut, so that would make this a very similar finish to Andrew's finish from last week, where Kid just went all the way through the tournament undefeated, not losing a match, and just taking the tournament down, which is super crazy. But yeah, that's the data I have for you guys today. The list for this first place Kid deck is on Orange Samurai's Facebook page as well, so again, go down in the description, check out that link, you'll see all that stuff there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.